The Rule of Jenny Penn tells the story of a judge, played by Geoffrey Rush, who unexpectedly suffers a stroke and is forced to recuperate in a nursing home, terrorized by a resident, played by John Lithgow, and his dementia doll he calls Jenny Penn. And I suppose to just come right out and be blunt about it, this isn't a fun movie. It's not a thrilling movie or a particularly scary movie or really anything like that. In fact, I would go as far as to say that beyond those two performances and the dynamics between those two characters, it doesn't really have much to offer in the way of any entertainment value. What it does do, however, is very intentionally piss you off. And it does so by basically saying, hey, so you know that thing about negligence and abuse that happens in nursing homes all over the place that pretty much everybody knows up to this point, but nobody likes to talk about, and even fewer out there actually do anything about it. Yeah, well, let's just throw you into that and force you to live in that world for the entire runtime of this movie. And I think the truly awful thing about it is that the longer I watched it, the longer the more I felt myself getting upset. The more the realization sunk in that, like, if the staff here even gave a single shit about their job and the responsibility they have for the welfare of these vulnerable elders in their care, this whole thing could be wrapped up in about 5 solid minutes, right? John Lithgow's actions and behaviors would be reported and investigated, and then he would either be removed from the home or arrested, whatever the situation called for, and it would be happy days and smooth sailing for everybody else in the days ahead. But it just doesn't work that way. Every bad thing that occurs throughout the runtime of this movie happens simply because it's allowed to, because somebody's got their back turned, and all of these cries for help and whatnot essentially fall on deaf ears and are immediately dismissed. And I think the most heartbreaking thought that was like nagging me in the back of my head the entire time was that, maybe not this specific situation, but a situation like this could be happening somewhere out there in the world right now as I'm watching this. And that was just a heartbreaking realization to come to. I don't know. Like I said, if we're looking at it as a movie, I don't think that this is one that I would go out of my way to recommend, nor is it one that I would have on as like a comfort movie or on in the background, while I'm doing something else. It may not even be one that I feel a particular hankering to sit down and watch ever again. But then you look at it from a artistic, creative perspective, and that's where it gets me, right? Because this is a creation, a project that has a lot to say about this very specific subject, and it really, strives in making the audience think about things that aren't nice to think about, feel things that aren't nice to feel, and make them genuinely uncomfortable. And I think it is very successful in that. And ultimately, that is the thing about this movie that earns my respect and earns a spot on my movie shelf. But that is going to wrap this video up, I think, guys. So, as always, thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves, and I'll catch you in the next one.